Well, we can't say that because we're not hashtag sponsored. So, all right, welcome back to Conflict of Leadership. Only what 3 weeks
Yeah, I think
later,
about 3 weeks.
at least. So your levels are still rolling up. Pull the microphone about half the distance to your face. Yeah, like
How's that?
well, that's better. I don't know why yours is. That or maybe I'm loud. Okay. You know, I'll just filter this back out again.
It's one thing or the other, that's for sure.
There you go. That's where we should be. So, all right. So, 3, 2, 1, shaka bra. I can't say that. That's another podcast I like listening to. All right, welcome back to Conflict of Leadership, where we talk about anything and everything that affects the fire service, how we do things, why we do things, and things that just honestly drive us complete bonkers. So,
That's a lot of stuff.
oh, isn't it? It seems to be more so anyway. Because I'm gonna be throwing you a curveball tonight. Because I know we kind of decided on a topic, but I know I called you the other day and said said we would be changing things up. So, but before I get ahead of ourselves, I'm Tim.
Jeremiah.
And tonight's topic, we were going to talk about relationships, wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, all that kind of stuff, husbands. Yeah, no, I think you and I talked the other day about what direction we need to start going. And I know it's more so I just gave the suggestion. You didn't necessarily disagree, but
No, absolutely not. Because we do need to do it.
Yeah. Now there is a thing affecting our generation and affecting the next couple generations, honestly. It's kind of why we started this podcast, and that is, what do we do with what we're left with in the fire service? Like, we're kind of left in this gray area where we don't necessarily have the experience of 30 years ago from structure fires, at least unless you live in like Detroit or Cleveland or something like that. You don't have the experience you did. We're running a lot more EMS calls, but even then, they're not necessarily the serious EMS calls. Right. But yet, we're also looked down on as that we don't carry the experience either, and we have no way of getting it. So it's
a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I guess I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of we have a new guy at my station, and good kid. He has so much to learn, and it's just hard for him to get the experience, but he feels compelled to kind of compensate. And I've seen others do it too, because they don't have the experience and so they don't want to look like they're behind the times, or
right.
they can't keep up with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I see it at my full-time job as well.
Mm-hmm.
People that are brand new, or even a few years experience, or even 10, 15 years, are like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah.
Been around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's hard because there's certain things that we just don't do very often. So, our training last night with dealing with pediatrics, and probably a point of contention that we have here with using 60 mil syringes and the stopcocks to give medications and boluses, because you should be giving controlled boluses. But we just don't run into those occasions very often.
Very often, very rarely.
Yeah. So, like, you judge someone for not having the experience and not know what to do with those things, but then they never got the opportunity to do so, and it's even less so now than it was before.
Yeah. I mean, medicine has taken a turn over the last 10 years. I'll go say that 10 years. Look where we were 15. How it's progressed.
Yeah.
Even from when I started doing this, it's totally different. Things are still the same, but there's a lot of things that have changed drastically.
Yeah. No, well, and it's hard too, because some of the things that we learned 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we learned by the school of hard knocks, as my grandpa would call it. And some of these kids, they don't have to learn those things that way. They don't have to. There's always something here.
Literally. Oh dear, thank God.
Oh, well, no. Some of the things, like, we had to learn by the school of hard knocks, but you can't do that anymore, or you don't have to do that anymore. And
yeah,
thank God, but you don't.
Like when I first started, That's how it was. We're gonna learn, like you said, hard knocks, and that's how it was.
Mhm.
It was either you sink or you're swimming. There was no in between. Oh dear. Always me.
It
Always
is,
me. I'm the problem.
it is
Maybe
always
I
you.
am the problem.
I don't know if you're necessarily the problem.
I'm part of the problem.
Yeah, I think though that gets into that gets really into it that we're all part of the problem because each one of our generations comes up with a compensatory mechanism to what we do about it. So the old hardened guys who have been around, who the only option they had with a bad call was treat with diesel and fly down the highway
Yep.
at 90 miles an hour. Now we have more resources available to us to not have to do that as often. But then we compensate in other ways because we talk about the run of the mill calls as if it was grandma dying
Yeah.
and we saved their life.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started doing this almost 15 years ago, that's how it was. Freedom with diesel.
Mm-hmm.
Every time it's like, get there faster, faster, faster. I'm like, dude, I'm going a little too fast to begin with. But like, we need to get there. And now look at us. Look at the resources we have, the medications we have.
Yeah.
We carry more medications here now than we did when I first started here.
And we're given more opportunity to use them too.
Yeah. We're allowed to use this medication and this medication. Here, we're going to let you guys do your jobs for once. Yeah. Here you go. We're giving you the tools.
Well, and that's changed, especially for you, state of Ohio.
Yeah.
You're now allowed. It used to be Mother May I for everything in your protocol. Now it's, hey, if they're asthmatic or if they're a COPD and you think they need albuterol, you just give it. You don't have to ask them. You don't have to assist them with their inhaler. No, you actually can give it.
Look now, epi.
Yep.
And soon to be glucagon.
Yep.
That it's all changing.
Yeah.
They were letting us do that, but hell, when I first started, I was allowed to innovate.
Yes, I forgot about it.
Yeah,
I forgot about that
because I had 2 years, but I was still allowed to do it before they took it away.
Yes, well, I remember that because when I got my card in 2014, they had just pulled that from the state protocol. We still learned how to do it, and it was still a registry testable item, but we weren't allowed to do it anymore. But no, it's interesting because that's even from paramedics, from the paramedic side too. Thankfully I turned up the.
That's why he took off.
Yeah. I turned up the noise gate, so it shouldn't be picking up too much of that anymore. But unless we're not talking. But anyways, no. When I went for my first job as a paramedic, number of things in the protocol that were Mother May I. You had to call med control and say, I have this, can I do it? Yeah. And now, like you look at protocol, there's very few things. About the only things that are Mother May I for our protocol is metoprolol or AFib RVR, and that's a medical director specific thing. Because our old protocol was give it if you feel it's necessary. Certain instances of epinephrine, and I think not RSI. RSI, if you have it, it's like is one of those things. But what is it? It's cricoid, needle cric.
Yeah.
But outside of that, everything else is, hey, use your clinical judgment and go.
Right.
Which that's a huge step because I remember having a conversation with an ER doc who swore up and down he would never sign off paramedics he didn't know individually. He's like, well, but you got 25 agencies underneath you. How? Right. Unless you're going to every single one of them and you're meeting and greeting everybody, how can you do that?
Right. I remember I was probably 2 years in EMS, and my partner called to get permission to give Zofran, pregnant woman.
Yeah.
Like, we really have to call for this? But in the protocol we had to get permission just for Zofran.
Well, and some of those things, and I get, especially when it comes to pregnancies, yeah, we're a little bit more careful.
Right.
But at the same time, too, it's like, why don't we educate, and then you can make a clinical decision versus, and it's the same thing on the fire side too. So, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, it was axes for everything. Like You got to vent a roof. You got to take a windshield. You got to take a window or whatever. It was access for
Yep.
everything, which are still some places that still do that. But now we have access to all kinds of different cutting implements. We got
Absolutely.
K12s. We got your sawzalls. You got your vent saws. I mean, and so we kind of lose the finesse of doing something, but then we make it seem like it's so much harder than what it is with the new things. We come up with ways to complicate it so that we can justify it still being difficult.
And a lot of these tools are out there to make our jobs and our lives easier
Yeah.
too, because you're out there swinging an axe up on a roof for who knows how long for you to get through that and get your size hole you need.
Yeah.
You take your vent saw or just a chainsaw, you're done in 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, and that's if you don't overcomplicate it, though.
True.
There's a lot of places that really overcomplicate
Absolutely.
it. Go ahead.
Like the old timers have been doing this for 30, 40 years. They're so used to, like you said, the axes, everything.
Yeah.
Give them a chainsaw, they're like, what's this? They're going to overcomplicate it.
Well, it's funny because what that extrication we had this last week, you will never believe I found a flathead axe on a rollover, and I'm like looking like, why is this here? Why do we have a flathead axe here? We ended up using it because I tried to use it to get a purchase point, so we could try to like bend the roof down.
Yeah.
And we ended up kind of using it, but I'm just the entire time like wondering, why is this down here and the rotary saw and the sawzall is not? But then you realize, oh, in the old days, you didn't have a sawzall to get your purchase point on, or to get your purchase point cut through a windshield.
Right.
You hack through it with a flathead axe the entire way through.
I remember when I first started here, the extrication training. That's what we train. And you tell you what, it is time consuming. And you're trying to make sure you don't whack yourself in the arm or a leg. Sawzall. Get your hole, and you just go to town. It's easy.
Yeah.
Takes you a minute or two to get through a hole, depending on the size of the car.
Well, yeah. But two, then we do all these things, and then like your danger points aside. So like cutting through cutting through like a piston for a gas piston for your airbags or something like that. Which, from Crest Course Village, guys who teach down there, if you're gonna cut your piston at all, you cut it with the sawzall, because then you can allow the pressure off easily.
Right.
But I can't tell you how many of these new tools come out, and we can't just use them the way that you would like think to use them. No, we gotta use them in a specific way, because we can't. We gotta make sure that it actually looks like we're doing something.
Now, some of the new people, it's like, think about what you're doing. Think about what you're going to do.
Yes.
This is a simple task. Overthinking it, you're going to make it overcomplicated. A lot of time I tell people, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. What I was taught.
Yeah.
That's what I've stuck to. Get in a rush, that's how you get hurt, someone else hurt. Complicate it, you overthink it, and then you screw it up.
Well, and a little bit of it's a little bit exposing to me, but we had a structure fire the other night, and it came as a garage fire. It turned out not to be. It was a small shed fire about the size of this room here, but because in my mind I had garage fire in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna need lots of lines and whatnot. Instead of just pulling the 1 3/4 crosslay, which would have been perfectly fine for this, because I've been raised in you can't do things simply. You can't just get the job done. No, I pulled the factory stretch line for 100 feet or 150 feet, and then I wanted to pull the bumper line to connect to the factory stretch line. Meanwhile, and I'm ashamed to say this, but the neighboring department came, just pulled our fucking crosslay and put the fire out, and kind of made it look. Now there's some other issues there that happened that made it worse, but it's like looking back, I'm like, why didn't I just pull the crosslay? That would have been the much better, more efficient way to do things.
Right.
But again, it's been drilled in my head. You young kids always have it so easy. You don't know what it's like to, to fight fire the old way. So, well, I can't make it too simple. Every time I make it simple in training, I get chastised for saying, "Hey, well, why'd you do it that way? We could do it this way and make it." It's like, because that's complicated. Why would I complicate something that I can simply do like this?
Yeah, and don't make it harder than it needs to be either.
Oh.
I've said this before in previous episodes. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
It's that easy.
Yeah. It just leaves me at this point. This is kind of why I wanted to take this direction, because I feel like if we're gonna do this podcast, we can do fun stuff, and I'm all for
Yeah.
that. But at some point, we have to do something too that actually give this new generation something to bite into. That's not just the you guys are lazy or you guys just don't know how hard you had it, because we can tell them plenty of those stories ourselves now.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
when we started, I remember my first cot I started on was an aluminum Furno cot with
Oh
like
my
the
gosh.
basic casseroles. Didn't even have like the rugged ones that
And
the strikers do.
it's crazy to see some of these big city departments
Mhm.
still use those.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that cot's 30 years old. It's almost as old as me, and you're
Mhm.
still rolling with those.
Yeah.
But they work. They're
Yeah.
simple.
They are.
That's why some of these departments don't want to get rid of them.
No.
And they're super cheap.
Well, and we've been having all kinds of issues in my other department, and definitely here with our
Oh,
loading
gosh, yeah.
system. Like they're all having issues. But and also a lot of those issues are because we overcomplicate things. Like, for example, so and I'll be honest, I really don't know the true reason behind it. But from what I understand, it was to extend the life of the ambulances with the new loading system until we can get new ones. But we went ahead and put leaf assist springs, or what, add leafs into our
Mm.
leaf springs. So it raised up the back of the ambulance about 2 inches, which now means that anytime that you park on any type of an incline, there is a possibility that the cot feet will not land properly,
Correct, yeah.
will not take pressure off. So now you have to force eject the cot from the system. We ran into this the other night twice, actually, in 2 separate calls that we had to do this, because the way the ambulance sat on the driveway, there was no way to get it released. So we had to force drop it. The other one, we had to actually physically lift the cot, almost completely negating the whole lift system just to get back
Exactly.
in. Why did we make it so much more complicated? The lift system was fine without the Adderley spring. Why did you add it? Like,
I think that in their minds, oh, this is going to help them do this, this, and this. In reality, it's hurting us.
yeah.
You're making it harder for us to get the cot in and out, especially with a patient on it,
Mhm.
because you can't get the weight off of it.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like, okay, so we've fixed the problem, okay, we're hurting our backs lifting these cots in these worst places, which that was one of those driveways. Yeah, somebody could get very hurt.
Yeah.
That's one of those driveways. I'm familiar with them. So you've made it so we don't get hurt, but then we still have to lift the cot that now weighs about 3 times as much as the old striker cots with the batteries and hydraulics.
150, 170.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Versus the old striker cots are about 65.
Yeah, 65, 70.
Yeah. So it's like we've taken a step forward to go backwards.
Yes.
For what purpose? But again, because
mean, there are times I do miss the old manual cots.
Yeah.
I do. Because back then we used to take patient up 3 and 4 steps on those manual
Mhm,
cots.
mhm.
Not with these suckers.
Yeah, you gotta be really careful because they're top heavy. They're more top heavy
Yep.
with a patient now because all the weight is up in there, and that they're just heavy and bulky.
And that's a problem I run to at my full-time job. I see a lot of these young people like, oh, we can carry them upstairs. No,
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
not. That is how you hit them on that cot. It's how you trip on the stairs
Mhm.
trying to lift them. You're going to break your ankle, leg. You're going to hurt them or kill them.
Well, I think there was something I told you before, or I think when we were talking last night, I brought up something that you had heard of. You just didn't know it was called this, but ABC.
Yes.
ABCs of private ambulance. Ambulate before carry. And I don't understand that, because here's the thing is that we have the tools to evacuate people from buildings in their homes. We have stair chairs. We have mega movers. We have what's it called? Reeves boards. We have all these things. We have a freaking vacuum mattress. We had the vacuum splint in mattress form.
Yeah.
And yet we insultingly use absolutely none of it because our egos want to say that we're the ones who can see who actually can walk and really needs to go to the hospital and who doesn't. Why? It's there. Use
Yeah.
it.
Like full-time job. Oh, you can't walk? All right. Putting you in a stair chair.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to hurt me. Not trying to hurt you. I'm making this easy on all of us.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, if I can load those back wheels up on the porch or that little deck,
Yeah.
I'll load it up there on that porch just like I am in this squad.
Yeah.
You know, and when I teach new people that, they're mind blown. They're like, this is like the invention of the wheel. Like, remember, I've been doing this a long time. I know some tricks of the trade.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that you're one of the few who actually does that consistently, though.
Yes.
Most of the time, we get in this mindset, and without being too, you get somebody who they learn the newest, latest, and greatest. So Rico VS versus Slicers, both of them perfectly kosher in any given world, But because Slicers was the newest, latest, and greatest, it became the thing that, now we have to pattern all of our firefighting around on it. And it's like, why? Besides the fact that it's new and cool and sounds hip, you did away with the old stuff. So you did away with these little tricks of of using like the cot on a porch or whatever. You did away with that because it's old, it's antiquated. That's what old guys do. We got to do the cool new thing. But yet that still works. Why don't we continue to help teach that and continue to help, mature people in that way?
Like me, I will always teach them. I was like, as long as you can get those back wheels safely up there, do it.
Yeah. It's a back saver. It's an everything saver.
Especially when it's only like this high. Just like low, and it's at literally most of the time it's at waist level.
Yeah.
Not like you're pulling it up to your chest. It's right there, and then you just take them into the house.
Yeah. No, it's like I think you've honestly hit like the very first step of that is sharing that knowledge.
I'm all for that because I'm gonna say it. Growing up here, because I have grown up here. Some of the stuff that I didn't learn here, I've learned at other places. I'm like, well, why wasn't I taught this here?
Yeah.
I was like, but then I can take what I've taught here and bring it to here to teach others.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Just like last night, training, the stop cop.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of my managers. He's like, I don't even know what that is. I've been doing this as long as I have.
Yeah.
How do you not know about this?
Yeah.
Like, we deal with critical care medicine consistently. Like, why is this not a tool that we have? And then like the air cues, I was showing him those too.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're gonna have to look into these. Like, we really should. Like, these are very, very beneficial, especially since we do all these critical care transports of long distances too.
Well, so you bring up something interesting, and I thought about it, and I think I brought this up before, and I'm gonna bring it up again here in a more concise way. But so back, I don't know how I'm gonna say back in this time, and I'm gonna be wrong. Somebody's gonna say, "Oh, well, actually, it was this." We'll be conservative with it. Back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. Okay, so emails become a thing. It's becoming a mainstream thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Coach Mike Bergner from Notre Dame was telling a story once about how he's a strength coach and how every school had like their own strength training regimen, which everyone knows. It's like you read like Muscle Magazine or Bodybuilder or whatever. There's like some sort of super secret sauce, workout that you're supposed to do to get X number of results. Every bodybuilder you can think of has written some book. Arnold Schwarzenegger and his bodybuilding Bibles.
Ronnie Coleman is another big one.
Yep, have written their way of doing it, and so on and so forth. But once upon a time, that was actually you had to be in the know to actually learn those things. Like you
had to be in that circle.
Yeah. And the worst thing that could happen, and this was especially true with like football too. The worst thing that could happen is that another team could learn your plays or learn your way of doing things and copy it.
Yep.
And okay, I get in the competitive sports world. Okay, that can be, yeah, that's, that's your way of like defeating another team or whatever.
Right.
But in the business world, why are we not sharing this? In the fire department world, why are we not sharing these things?
Right.
And why are we keeping things secret? Like there's things here like that we're not. I don't want to say it's not necessarily non-disclosure agreement type nonsense, but it's things that we're discouraged from taking other places,
Right.
and we're very much discouraged from bringing other ideas in.
Yes.
And it's like, for what? If it makes us better and makes us more efficient in our job, why would you not want that?
Like they're like we aren't open-minded. You
Yeah.
have to be open-minded because we don't know everything.
No.
We might know stuff someone else don't know, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
You have to share that. Like, okay, I see your point on this, but what about this way or this way or this way? And you just come to a conclusion. It's like, okay, they all work great. You can use either one of them.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're places like, no, absolutely not. We're not doing this. We're not adapting this. We're not even going to try to adapt this. We're sticking with the way we have been doing it for the last 30 years. Worked. Okay, well, why not?
Makes it easier, makes it more effective. It's for the longest time, like, so D50 used to be the benchmark.
Yep.
When you're treating a diabetic patient, hypoglycemic specifically, should probably, I don't think I need to specify that, but I'll specify. Hypoglycemic specifically, diabetic patient, D50 was the benchmark. That was the industry standard.
Yes.
That you didn't give D10. D10 was for babies, literally for babies.
Yeah.
D5W was for neonates, maybe, but it's really not effective anyways. But D50 was the standard. And then all of a sudden, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it really wasn't that long ago, D10 started coming around in protocols that, hey, this is better, it's safer, it's actually more effective over a longer period of time. You don't get the rebound sugar drop because you don't
it's like
spike your sugar. Yeah.
Morphine's got a short shelf life in your system.
Half-life.
Half-life, yeah. My apologies. You knew what I meant.
Yeah, I know.
But just like the D5 and the D10 and the D50.
Yeah. Yeah. But for the longest time, I don't want to say the D50 does not have a place somewhere. It does.
It does, yeah.
It does. But honestly, by other part, we don't even carry D50 anymore. And thankfully, I don't think we carry it here anymore. It took forever for that to come out of our lexicon of treatment protocols because we couldn't get the idea out that the simpler, better way of doing it could actually be more effective. Especially if you've never pushed D50, you're literally pushing syrup. Yes. That is, it's bad. Especially because if you infiltrate that vein, you basically just cause the loss of a limb right there. You cause immediate necrosis of the tissue. Whereas D10, I mean, as long as you have a patent vein, that stuff flows in very easily. So again, though, it's better, but we held on to our D50 like it was our freaking job because reasons why and then we taught younger paramedics. Oh no, if you're really gonna be a paramedic, you're gonna do D50. You're gonna use this drug. Lidocaine was the same thing. Now there's some other nuance in there too that I'm not gonna go deep into, but Lidocaine was the other thing. You get is epi and amio for a full arrest. Oh, lidocaine was the way we used to go. You just gave one box of that and it was good. It's like, but this is an actual specific like anti-arrhythmic, not just a general anesthetic for everything. This is an anti-arrhythmic for that purpose, and it's more effective. Yeah, it buys you a 50+ day stay in the CICU, possibly, but it's more effective.
Yeah.
And yet for a long time, people refuse to use it because reasons. Why?
Yeah. I mean, you need to bring up good points. Look at backboards now.
Yes.
Look how long, when that started out west, how long ago?
Oh my God.
And then it took forever to get to us out here on the East Coast.
what's crazy is that you say forever ago, it literally was 20 years
Yeah.
ago plus that they started saying, hey, backboards are not as effective as we think
They're
they are.
worse.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Like, and yet we still keep. Now they do have, again,
They
have
do
a
have their
place,
purpose. Absolutely.
but they're not. But we still use them as like the baseline industry standard.
You know, sometimes I question like, why do we have these?
Mhm.
I still get why we have them. It's patients, vehicles, and or even carrying them out of a house. That's all you have.
Yeah.
So many times I had to do that job a long time ago. Stupid. But it's like, all right, they serve one purpose, getting them out of a vehicle, get them off.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. That's all they're pretty much used for. Unless you're doing CPR. I mean, it's good to have a harder surface, but
Yeah. But that again, those are niche things. It's kind of like what's the other one? KED board.
oh, yes.
KED board that everyone was the industry standard. Everyone needs to have a KED board, and it became. I'm still only convinced that it was only a registry testable item because it took so many steps to get right. I hated that thing
I
with a
did.
passion. It's so stupid. But like when you look at like the amount of time it takes to actually put someone in a KED board properly,
Yes.
is several minutes. And manipulating that patient, if they are that injured that they need that kind of spinal immobilization to move them, then they're probably that injured that you need to forego that, get them the heck out of wherever they are,
Absolutely.
and get them stabilized another way.
Yeah, absolutely. Get them out and stabilize, and
Yeah,
we're off.
yeah. No, but for the longest time, it's like that was like, oh, they're in a car, put them in a KED board. I guess
Yes.
it's like you can lift them out. It's like
I can't tell you how many times I've had to be. I think it was probably before you started here too.
Mhm.
KED board. So long.
Yeah.
You got what, 7, 8, 10 different straps,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got the ones in your
2,
thighs.
3, 4, 5. Technically 6 and yeah, so seven individual
Yeah.
straps I can count off the top of my head. Yes.
You know, it's like could have had them out 4 minutes ago.
Yeah. Not to mention all the ways you have to manipulate because you have to pivot them forward to get behind.
Yeah.
You have to lift up their legs, even though we're gonna seesaw the straps there.
Mhm.
You gotta manipulate them in every
Yeah.
single different way to get them onto.
And then you got to put somebody in that car too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, someone's still got to get in there, hold C-spine, but now you got someone holding C-spine
Mm-hmm.
in there with the patient, trying to get all the straps on,
Mm-hmm.
hold C-spine and get them out.
Yeah. Well, it too is like, so once you get them out, then you have to release the leg straps so they actually can lay on the cot in an appropriate way. So at which point now you've one of the biggest points of like movement, so the hips that probably need stabilized, and the reason why you probably did in the first place. Now you completely took out all the stabilization. It has half the stabilization as the backboard with none of the actual support.
Yeah. Another one I'm going to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be like, I forgot about these. Shock garments.
I was just thinking mass trousers. I was just thinking that.
I've seen one pair ever, and that was in EMT school.
Yeah.
Ever. Never seen them anywhere else.
So I
think we might have had them here a long time ago before you ever started, but then we got rid of them. I can't remember for sure.
The only time I saw them was also in EMT school, 2013. And it was brought up by our lead instructor who said that his department had used them, and they used them for a training exercise one day. And they actually pumped them up on this poor bloke. And when they did, they actually caused him to have, I think it was have an embolism or something. Ooh. Because when you use them, they're supposed to cut circulation off there to keep everything going, which there's scientific reasons why that doesn't work. There's actual scientific reasons called shunts and valves in your veins that keep blood flowing only one direction generally, unless something really goes wrong. So, now we're not gonna get too deep into that. But they caused him to like be hospitalized because they used it inappropriately. I remember even in our EMT book, like when they brought up use your mask trousers, your shock mask trousers, that it's like only under very specific circumstances were you supposed to use them, because you could really ruin someone's day.
Oh, absolutely.
You can kill someone.
I mean, I'm glad we were on the same page with that one.
Yes.
It's those old school things that we learned that we don't use anymore. Some of them we still do.
Mhm.
Backboards, like
Mhm.
yeah, they serve a purpose.
Yeah.
They do. But to what extent?
Mhm.
You don't want to cause more harm. Trying to help them, keep them on there. Like I roll over. I had a couple of weeks ago. I said we try to get her off the backboard,
Yeah.
and I got shot down on
Mhm.
that one. And I was a little upset with it, and then I find out, oh, she has multiple lumbar fractures. Now I'm a little irritated.
Yeah, because that's not necessarily going to help her in that case either.
Yep.
Like, here's the problem I found with backboards. And honestly too, even with Reed's boards, I had this problem the other day with a Reed's board. We took a patient in, and we had her in Reeves, and goes to vomit. Well, the problem is Reed's board is just about as stiff as backboard. You got a little bit that you can kind of lift up,
not
but
much.
you've only getting maybe 10 degrees of lift in the back of your cot. So if they vomit, you only have one other option: tilt them to the side.
Yep.
Well, that's not always the best thing you can do. Honestly, somebody vomiting off to the side is actually worse in some cases. Yeah, does it help evacuate most of it? Yeah, but all that to get stuck in their cheek and the back of their throat there.
Yeah, now you're gonna might possibly aspirate.
Yeah. So it's like, so why not just, you got them out of the house? Okay, move them off of the Reeves onto the cot. Now, I'm just as guilty as anyone else not doing this. But again, it's because we still also want to meet this arbitrary 10 minutes like load and go scenario.
Yeah. Like I will say, me and my partner were very good about that. If we know we're going to a home,
Yeah.
we will Google map it first.
Yep.
See, because it says, oh, there's only 3 stairs. Okay, there's more than 3 stairs on the porch. There's like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Where are they going when we get up there?
Yeah.
We don't know. A lot of times we just stair chair them, but if they can't hold themselves up half the time, okay, we'll put you on the cot, we'll get you there, and then we'll put the Reeves under you.
Yeah.
You say that, I mean, sometimes we do these long distance trips for 45. You don't want to ride on that that long, especially the elderly.
Yeah.
They're already brittle.
Yes.
And I can only imagine how that would feel. When I first started here, when I got taken out to do driver's training, they strapped me to a backboard in the back of that squad, so I knew what it felt like the patient would feel.
Yeah.
It is uncomfortable, even without an injury.
Yeah. Well, and I can appreciate that sentiment. Oh, you know what it feels like, but then you start thinking like, why are we doing this at all? Especially if the science tells us it doesn't do what we think it does. Why are we doing this at all? And I think this really starts to kind of bring in the thing that's like, we know better. Like, and this I guess would be the first anthem I would sing at the top of my lungs here, is that we know better now.
Yes.
We can no longer feign ignorance that what is helpful to a STEMI. I just happen to be looking at a STEMI report here from a couple months ago, but it's like, we know that nitro and aspirin and oxygen are helpful to a STEMI, and yet you still have, and heparin also in Brilinta, and yet you still have medics who will argue, oh, well, aspirin doesn't do anything in this immediacy, so what are we really doing for? No, we know better.
Right.
We know
it's
better.
been proven.
Like, what is it? Like, stroke assessments. It's like, if you get cell signs of a stroke, we know that calling a stroke assessment, or maybe better yet, sepsis, since that's the new big thing.
Yes.
We now know what sepsis looks like, and we know it's deadly. We know better. So when you just say, oh, well, they're just sick with the flu, they didn't really need a ambulance, it's like, really? Maybe they are just sick with the flu, you know? Maybe they are. But we should know better that it can be worse.
We talked about this. We have. When you get a call for one thing, it turns out to be something totally different. We made an example of this guy over here. We thought it was, he had a bowel obstruction. Turned out he had pneumonia.
Oh, yes. I remember that.
Yeah, because I was like, this is a perfect day for this right here.
Yeah.
We've hit on that. You know?
Well, and how many, like, so we know better, like, the new thing with like response protocols is licensed sirens. There's some sort of study out there that says licensed sirens only saves you like 90 seconds in city and like 40 seconds, 30 seconds in country roads. Cool. All right, whatever. Um, those 90 seconds, it doesn't sound like a lot. 90 seconds is how long it takes to go from the door to the ambulance, and that's a time where someone can either be talking to you or code on you.
Absolutely.
Like, and I know it's like I don't want to make too much hyperbole over this because I'm not a huge fan of the 10-minute time window of like just load and go and just do everything in route. Like, okay, you got 20 minutes, cool. I'll do everything in route. But if I get a 10-minute transport, even if I got a 20-minute transport, and like what Chris said last night when he was doing his pediatric stuff, forget your 10-minute time window. You want to get your IV and everything stabilized first and then transport. This is not the time to be bouncing down the road. And I would argue to all those old guys and old timers who are like, oh yeah, we were bouncing down the roads through whatever city and we're getting IV. Why? Why did you not take an extra 5 minutes? Honestly, not even that long, 3 minutes, get your IV established and then go.
I can't tell you how many times I've been on full arrest here a long time ago. Yeah. Get there, get them in the ambulance, and we're going. I was like,
yeah.
And now they're, hey, can you slow down? I'm trying to start this IV. Before we left.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and here's just little EMT me just doing chest compressions and trying and holding on to the rail for dear life because we're doing 90 down through a city that's 25. I'm like, this is dangerous. Like,
yeah. Yet we still do that. When you tell somebody, hey, work them inside. It's like, oh, we gotta get them in our office. I was like, no, we know better. We know better. In fact, I just gave CPR class today. Chest compressions is the number one thing that is beneficial to somebody in cardiac arrest. So we know better that we're gonna stop chest compressions for 8 minutes while we try to hike them down the stairs and then get them in a squad, and then we're gonna do that. Work them in the house until you either get ROSC or you've been there for 30 minutes. It's what the hospital's going to do.
Absolutely. And my last full arrest, thanks myself. It's been almost 6 months. You know, we worked them right there in the living room. And then we got ROSC. Yeah. Then we transported. You know, we got them in the squad. Everything was done. IO was in, iGel was in. We were going to intubate, but like, you know what? We got good chest rise. Let's just keep the iGel in. And we hauled ass the city.
Which that's the way it should go.
Yeah.
Get ROSC, get yourself stabilized, and then go. There's only a few times where I would say not to do that, but those times are I put asterisks on. You've got an extended transport. You already know you have extended transport time. We're going to a trauma center up north, so we know we'll be on the road for 20, 25 minutes. There was prolonged extrication that, you know, and they are honestly that sick and that unstable. But those patients, that unstable, like the open skull fractures and the 60 over blood pressures, those are far few and in between.
And see, that's another one right there. Palpating a blood. That to me, that is a lost art.
It is.
And I get criticized for you at my full time. Like, skill.
Yeah.
They still teach you. You should be like, hey, if you're getting some weird readings on your monitor, let's outpatient blood pressure. It's really not hard.
The number of times I've told my EMT partner, even my medic partner, hey, we keep on getting these weird, you know, we're getting the reading. I don't buy that at all. That's just not right. Even if it's a normal tensive blood pressure, quote unquote, I'm looking at my patient, I'm like, no, that's not right. Give me a manual blood pressure. And like, oh, it's actually this. I'm like, okay, do it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now than what I'm seeing. But because we have the technology available to us, you should use it, absolutely. But we just don't.
Right.
We just assume that the old ways are just antiquated. And no, I mean, I don't know that necessarily dictating that every single first blood pressure is a manual, because there is just as much variance. Personally too, it's like especially when I was a young EMT, but even so, it's like sometimes you get blood pressure, and unless you know to watch like the tick of the actual thing, I know there's a lot of EMTs who look at me like 142 over 80.
I'm gonna be guilty. I've been that person.
And it's like, Why are you asking me what I think
Yeah.
it is? Like, you took it, not me.
Yeah.
Why am I the one?
Like, are you asking or are you
Yeah,
telling? You
and
know?
it's because they're not sure themselves. Well, that's the same level of error. It's just now it's human factor in there
Yes.
too. So I don't necessarily think that it's like say, hey, every single first blood pressure must be. But to your point too, we still need to keep these things in the back of our head to to be able to fall back on.
Yeah.
I think another one that we do, and this actually comes from one of the most transparent CEs I ever saw from what was it? It wasn't CE Solutions. It was a I think it's HSO or HRO or one. Anyway, anyways, doesn't matter. The guy giving the lecture was transparent and said, "We all know that we make up most of our respiratory rates unless it's actually unless we actually sit there and count and we have to. We know we make them up most of the time." And there's some transparency here that's
Yeah.
like, wow, seriously? But on the flip side, it's like you have a perfect way of measuring somebody's respiratory rate with extreme accuracy that most agencies and most hospitals even don't even use. And that is your capnography.
Yes.
Whether it's your nasal capnography or it's your inline capnography. You don't we need to use it. We need to train guys to use it.
Yeah. Like I probably like when I first started my full time job,
Mhm.
I was like, okay, they weren't very hard on it, like whatever. They
Yeah.
were very laxed on things.
Yeah.
Trying to last 3 years, I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I don't care. I started using Capno like crazy.
Yeah.
Like bam, bam. And now I got questioned. Why are you doing this? Why not?
Yeah.
It's a skill I can do. It's not hurting anything.
No.
Oh, yeah, they're a little more expensive than a regular nasal cannula.
They are.
But I am treating my patient to the best I can. And if I can do more than what I can, why not?
Well,
It's not like hurting them. It's not invasive.
no. And when slowly we're at my other apartment, we're phasing out our regular cannulas slowly.
So are we.
And we are going straight to capnos. Yeah, they're $120 a pop or whatever they are. But in every semblance of usage in our protocol, even here, that we're told you should be using them. Like that should be your go-to, not
See, that is my go-to.
Yeah.
Like first thing I grab, I don't even try to grab a regular cannula.
No.
It's a
Yeah.
straight Capno.
Yeah.
Like screw it, just throw it on there. Why not?
Yeah.
You know, like even if I do like a simple transfer and like, oh hey, we gave some Dilaudid. My protocol already states I have to put on Capno regardless.
Yes.
I was gonna put them on Capno whether they got it or not. I really didn't care, but cool.
No, it's one of those things like you have to educate that direction because if you don't, then we just fall into the same traps that we did already.
Yep.
I think this is, and I hate to say this because when we were down in the training building the other day, we were doing we were just doing some basic hose drills. I can see in people who haven't even been in the fire service that long, and by fire, and I mean actually working it, like you've had your card for 4 or 5 years, but you haven't done anything with it. But already, I can see the how do I put this delicately and nicely. I can see the influence of you view how you view doing the job as a firefighter versus like how it should be viewed. And that it's like, you sit there and just kind of wait your turn so you can go through the motions and whatnot. And, okay, yeah, it's fun to harp on other people's mistakes and whatnot, but it's like,
Yeah, don't forget your helmet.
Yeah, don't forget my helmet. Exactly. But then too, it's like, it's like somehow instinctively we know that we're supposed to be adverse to training and practicing. I don't know how we know that instinctually, but we do. And I'm seeing that, with somebody who has next to zero time on the fire department, but had their card for 4 years. How do you know this? How do you know that this is the behavior you should be having? You should be eager to try this stuff and do this stuff, but you're not. And it's like boggles my mind.
It is, and I even see that in my full time job with brand new EMT. It's like okay, like I said, for example, like hey, I've had my EMT for 2 years. I figured I'd finally use it.
Yeah.
They just got a shit attitude.
Yeah.
I'm like, not the attitude you need to have. You need to pay attention
Yeah.
and listen. Like, I'm not here to screw off with you. Like, either you're gonna get this down, because if you screw up, you can kill someone.
Yeah.
And then that's the end of your life, end of your career. You're done.
Yeah.
Like, pay attention. Ask, and I want you to ask questions. Please. I think that's the biggest problem with some of the younger kids. They don't ask enough questions.
No. Well, questions are looked at, and even, I mean,
Well, back in the day, though, even when I first started, you asked a question, you got told to shut up.
Yeah.
Stop asking questions. Okay. I want to know. This is what I want to learn. This is why I'm asking questions. No, sit there, shut up, and listen.
Yeah.
And I did not like that. I won't ever do that. Ask me the questions.
Yeah.
I will. If I don't have an answer, I'll find it out for you.
We had this the other morning, and the guy was kind of halfway joking, but halfway not. We, young guy at my station, young both in service and in age, but the guy came in. He's very much the less of this, flapping your jaws, and more of this, keeping your mouth closed. Yeah. Well, that defeats two things in one go. Number one, that person never feels like they can actually speak, or anyone will ever get to know them. So now all I get to know from you is whenever I do finally pry your mouth open for you to talk. Because I remember when I first started there, I didn't talk at all because you weren't supposed to talk. And then finally somebody's like, well, I don't know anything about you. Well, tell me about this. And then I say, it's like, well, why do you do that? That's stupid. Well, that's dumb. So
it makes me not want to talk.
Exactly. Which is then the second part is that when we do ask questions, when we do bring things up, when we do try to talk about things, you shut me down just as quickly instead of getting to know getting to know me or getting to know my thought process. In both cases, like that doesn't breed like confidence. It doesn't breed trust.
It doesn't. Like I'll take an example for today.
Yeah.
We had a girl come down from one of our Cleveland stations. Barely said 10 words throughout the day. And me and my partner try to get her to talk all day. I'm like, you talking?
Yeah.
Like we were being friendly, like, hey, what do you want for lunch? How are you? Like, we know she has a kid. How's your kid? And barely spoke. Like, what's going on up there?
Yeah.
Like, why don't you talk? She was with us for almost 12 hours and barely said anything. Like, talk to us.
Yeah.
Like, we ain't going white. Like, I'm goofy and weird as hell, but I'm trying to get to know you. Like, hey, like, talk to us. Like, new people here. I'm like, hey, what's your background? Tell us a little bit about you. Like, I want to know about you. Let's what do you feel like your strengths or your weaknesses are?
Yeah.
Help me help you.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because here I had to bring down the hammer, the drill sergeant hammer on somebody because they're just not talking to people. Like they're just kind of sitting there and just kind of going with the flow and whatnot. And they think they're doing the right thing. And they let somebody sign them off on something that they weren't qualified or couldn't do. And I kind of let them be embarrassed. And I kind of embarrassed them a little bit with it. But it's because like you don't talk about anything. You don't really like conversate about stuff. And you don't want to necessarily anyone to treat you like you're stupid or you don't know what you're doing. But then you don't. It's like, I don't know anything about you. I don't know like what your thoughts are, like what your thought process is to doing anything. And then whenever I have to teach you, I got nothing to go off of except that you're just not paying attention. You just don't want to ask questions when you're supposed to.
Yes.
It's like, if you won't talk to me about your hobbies or your interests and whatnot, I got 0% confidence that you're going to act like when you think you're about to be embarrassed, that you're going to ask me a question. I don't care how stupid that question is. Ask me while we're training because
this is the perfect time to ask it.
10 o'clock on a structure fire is not the time for me to becoming almost ready to shake you because you don't know how to put pump in gear or you're freezing up because you're not sure which valve to pull.
Or forget to
turn the recirc on. No, but it's like, I mean, and this is why, like, whenever I say we still have a stigma in the fire department military, whether it's for this or suicide or anything like that, mental health, this is why I say we still have it, because I see the effects of it. I see people who don't want to ask questions.
Yeah.
I see trainers who are guessing at what they need to practice on or
Yeah.
what we need to work on because they have no freaking clue.
You know, I see that a lot at my full-time job.
Mhm.
We'll get these brand new people, and it's like their second or it's their last day of being out on the road for like, who was your FTO?
Yeah.
And they're like, and we go back and we're like, they've done nothing with it.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? Like,
Mhm.
this is ridiculous. Don't know how to use the reporting system.
Yeah.
Don't know how to use the cot. I'm like, what have you done the last 2 days? Oh, we just sat there and what are they doing?
Yeah.
You're not helping them. You're not guiding them.
Yeah.
They're our future caretakers if they stay in this field. You
Mhm.
have to guide them in the right way.
Yeah.
Just letting them sit there doing nothing.
Yeah.
And then we have to go, it's like, hey, they need probably another week of ride time because their other FTO has done nothing with them.
Which then your bosses don't want to hear that because then they're like, well, what do you mean? They did what they're supposed to. They did the requisite time.
Yeah.
Why did they need more time? We have that problem here.
Yeah.
What do you mean
But
they
the thing
need
is,
more?
like, they don't have like a checkoff sheet. Like,
Mhm.
I've been like, we need to have a checkoff list.
Mhm.
Like when we get brand new people for ride time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's we do it. It's like you and I.
Yeah.
We throw a lot at them in
Yeah.
a very short amount of time because our ride time is 3 days.
Yeah.
And that's it. I'm like, I don't agree with that.
Mhm.
That is especially for a brand new EMT.
Mm.
Their card, the ink on their card is still wet.
Yeah. And that's not at all going to prepare them for anything.
And it doesn't.
Like I've said this before, and I'll say it again. And I think one of the shorts actually I have in the channel here is talks about this. 10 weeks does not equate to 10 years.
No.
Like you can't give someone 10 years of experience in the time it takes them to go through EMT school. You can't give them that time in the 10 days that you're going to put them through an orientation and then expect to put them on the road and then function just as good as the guy who's been there for 10 years. It's just not possible.
Like there's some guys I've worked at different stations like, oh, I've been doing this for like a year and I get working with them like, do you have no idea what?
Yeah.
Like, this is scary.
Mhm.
It really is. But they don't care. They're just there to collect a paycheck.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that is because I think back to whenever I went to fire school. And one of the first things we got told was he was a captain in the local city. He came in and told us about how awesome the fire service is. And he's like, oh, I came out of the Marine Corps and I wanted to do something I didn't know. And I became a volunteer firefighter. And then somebody told him, well, why don't you test for here? You can get paid. And he's like, I can get paid for this? Oh man, I can get paid for the best job in the world. And you can.
Yeah.
You can, absolutely. Well, it's like, that's what you're telling these kids who are like 20 in their early 20s, most of them, is it's the best job in the world. You can get paid and you get to go toes up in the recliner and you get to, all these other things. And you don't give them the reality. It's like, hey, I got to this point by a lot of hard work, by a lot of mistakes, a lot of
absolutely.
stupid mistakes.
Yep.
Because I was thinking about this the other day. I was listening to another podcast and they were interviewing the guy and he was telling about himself. It's like, oh yeah, I've been married for 24 years and I've got 4 kids. And I turned off and I thought to myself, I'm like, I can't even fathom. I've been married now 4 years. I can't even fathom 10 years, let alone 24, because everyone shows you like the end result of what you could be. No one ever like really gives you an idea of like how much work it takes to get there. We just show you could be this and this is cool. Strive for this. But then it's like, well, what direction do I go? I don't know. You just go be cool. Go to be awesome. And it leaves all these kids in this boat that you are there where they have a bad attitude. They're there to collect a paycheck and they think that they're cool just because they have the job title, not because of anything else.
And I've ran into kids that are like, oh yeah, I'm on this fire department, this fire department. Like, okay, that's great and all. You don't know a damn thing that's what's going on right now.
No.
And I'm like, I've had to correct people. I'm like, listen, you can't do this. They're like, well, why not? Because you're not allowed, or that's because that's how people get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. That's scary to think about.
terrifying.
Like, I would not turn you in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help you. You're young. Yeah, I'm trying to mold you into EMT or medic. You should be, but they just don't care because they take those bad habits from their other job
Mhm.
or their department, and it just carries over. Now, mind you, I'm guilty of that sometimes too.
We're
At
all
both
guilty of it.
places.
Yeah.
You know, my partner, she kind of has to like keep me aligned. Like,
Yeah.
no, Jay, we're not doing that.
That's a lazy way.
Yes, yes. Like, okay, all right, fine, all right, whatever. But
Well, and it's like it also goes into the argument too that like how many have you run across that they work for like 5 or 6 small departments, and each of those departments do like 200 calls a year, if that. And then they equate that to being equal to that of the city of Cleveland. Their experience levels equates to the city of Columbus or Detroit. It's like that math doesn't math. You can be on 4 different departments. You're getting experience. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
You're getting some good experience. And yeah, you probably will do a shooting or so once or twice in your time there. You probably will have some pretty major traumas every once in a while, especially in farming communities. But don't try to put yourself on the level that you have done, that you're on the same level as a major metropolitan department that does their med units by themselves do 14 to 18 calls per day.
yeah,
Like,
look at Columbus.
yeah,
They run almost 14,000 calls a month.
yeah,
A month.
a month.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. They run more calls in a week than most
I
other.
wonder if I can find one of their statistics real quick,
Yeah,
because it's insane. Because I know sometimes they'll put it on there.
yeah. No, it's the same as like whenever it's like you go like, and this again, it's the same thing we have that where you take, and I was this way too, and then like more I think about, like I remember when I was this way, coming from little podunk Farmville here,
Yeah.
got on the larger township department for the first time, and thought, oh, I've been doing this for 4 years now. I know what I'm doing. You don't need to. You don't need to. It's a bear.
I was gonna say we just saw Bigfoot's nip, but oh
Bigfoot.
god,
Like,
Oh,
who is
Lord.
that? Good grief. But no, it's like I remember going to a larger township department, thinking I was all hot, and I'm like, oh, I don't need anyone to patronize me. Don't tell me how to do my job. And even now, I'm like realizing, wow, I still have a lot to learn because the pace that we have to run at there is so much faster. We do things so much, like as I was telling my new partner the other night, it's like, look, you get on scene for a structure fire, we don't take our time to like pull, like get everything set. Like, no,
Yeah.
it's go time. You're moving. It's time to go to work because that's what we gotta do. We don't have the luxury of taking our time to do things.
Yeah. So I found Columbus's one of their statistics
Yeah.
they put out from July of just 2022.
Yeah.
13,763 calls in a
13,000. That, I mean, that's
10,500 of those were all EMS.
so they. I mean, and I know honestly, for most departments, they do more EMS calls in a month. They also do more EMS calls in 2 weeks than most of the decent sized cities around us do in a year.
I mean, in June of 2022, 14,500.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
insane.
They,
And like you said, yeah, you might work on 6 different departments. You are getting nowhere the experience that those guys are.
no, not even close.
Like 60 calls a day.
Let's see here. Was it? City of Massillon does 6,500 calls roughly per year. I think Barberton does roughly 50. Was it 52?
About 5,500.
5,500.
55.
So those two cities in a year do roughly half as much as they do in a month. That is insane.
Yes. Have you ever listened to them on the scanner?
No.
It's bam, 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 bam. I've listened to them before. They've had, what was it? We were down there a couple weeks ago. 6 EMS calls in 30 seconds.
Jeez. Well, and then you listen to FDNY or was it LA Fire?
Yeah.
And then you listen to them on fire stations, and they are just mechanical. They just
they're robots
because they do it so much. Do you know? So I found this out. Do you know FDNY? I don't know what the frequency is. They do this. I'm gonna say every year. I'm sure it's not, but I'm gonna say every year they do a large scale multi-story structure fire, like live fire, structure fire, involving multiple companies as a training.
I mean, look at the high rises they have. They need that's their bread and butter.
Yeah. So they do, and they do it. I don't remember what they call it. It's like a gauntlet, basically. They have like special name for it. But their whole thing is that it's supposed to be like a storefront fire that then has extension into one of the apartments, the taxpayers upstairs, and then they have to get on scene. Their battalion chief takes command and orchestrates multiple search and rescue crews, multiple fire attack crews, hydrant operations, broken hydrant operations. Like they throw everything. If you can find it on YouTube, it's actually incredible to watch what they do. And they are so calm, cool, collected. They don't.
Again, that's their bread and butter.
Yeah,
that's what they literally train for.
Yeah,
I mean, you get outside of the city. Yeah, you got some single family homes.
Yeah,
but 90% of that is high rise.
Yeah. So, yeah, but just listening. But then you ask yourself, well, how many fires? Oh, they're doing several dozen fires a week. Well, no shit. Of course they're experts at that.
I mean, look at Detroit.
If you got 6 fires, 7 fires in the shift.
Yeah,
you're beat the hell down, but you get good at your job.
Yeah, I mean, just like Cleveland Fire. That's their bread and butter too. Yeah, that's all they do.
Did you know? So we kind of brought up axes and whatnot. Did you know that their industry standard up there for doing roof vent is axes only?
Really?
Yeah. We have one of our guys who went up to Cleveland Fire. He's on now. He made it through the academy and everything. And he said that they're proficient enough that they can get through same size 4x4 cut vent hole in a roof in roughly the same amount of time of a vent saw. Yeah. Like they're not quite as fast, but they're close. Like it's seconds that they're behind.
Look how often they
exactly.
It's constant.
Yeah.
I mean, I was up there a couple weeks ago. As soon as I got into the city, you just see the plume of black smoke.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. That's another fire.
Well, and when we did our live burn at work last year with a local college, we had a couple guys from Cleveland come down, and I've always been taught, it maybe not necessarily poorly or wrongly, but I've always been taught when you see fire, put water on fire. Well, we're coming up the stairs or our burn building, and I see fire, so I do what I've been taught: hit the fire real quick and move up. And he's like, "Okay, good, you did that. What can you see now?" I'm like, "I can't see anything." Like exactly. Get to the fire room unless it's rolling down on you off the stairs. If it's rolling down the stairs on you, put some water on the fire. But as soon as you put water on that fire, it's going to cause all that smoke to darken up real quick because now you got incomplete combustion and you won't be able to see anything. So you got a room and contents fire. Get to the room and contents fire. Get to that door. Get to that room, and then put water on the fire so you can actually see what you're doing.
Yeah. Everybody's different.
Yeah,
but that makes a lot.
It does. It makes a whole ton of sense.
See, now I'll never forget that. Now,
yeah,
it's little things like that stick with.
Yeah, but again, it's because those guys do it every single day, literally every day, multiple times a day. They're doing room and content structured fires. They're doing multiple. Like, if you ever watched the Detroit City Fire burn, the documentary, those guys are going into houses that are rolling. Those things are ripping.
They have no fears.
Yeah. They got collapses and whatnot. They're going, and they've changed since that. That was 10 years ago. They changed how they do some of their operations since then. But those guys, they're like, yeah, we're going to put the fire out. We got water shooting out of the structure. We ain't shooting no water into it.
I forget the exact words, but they're fighting the fire from the inside out. Something like that. Because like you just said, there's water shooting out of all the windows.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they're very, very aggressive.
Yeah. But if we lose some of that, and I'm not sure why we lose some of that. I don't know if it's necessarily the fear of it, or if it's just the inexperience. But now
I'm gonna say both.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. But then the question then becomes like, okay, so how do we start to recapture that, especially for our generation, who we really don't know. Most of us don't know, and unfortunately, the wise sages who could teach us have all but gone. How do we learn that, and how do we reteach ourselves that? That's the question.
Yeah, that is a big question.
So I almost feel like this is going to start maybe our first official series, because this is, the more I think about it, the less I want to just do a podcast just for fun and just for fun. We need to give our generation something they can actually go with, especially, and it's like, and I'm not so much talking about the guys FDNY, Cleveland Fire, Detroit, LA, because those guys are getting it. I'm talking about the guys who come from our background, where smaller townships, smaller cities, you don't get a lot of that time, and no one's teaching you, and so you're just kind of doing whatever feels right. We got to do something, because
we do.
I'll lay a statistic on you. So when we went to the Fire Expo in Ashland here a couple of years ago, State Fire Marshal's office gave us a statistic, or a kind of a warning. I don't know how best put it, like the wording for it, but it was basically that they predict within the next 5 to 10 years, and I'm adding a little bit in here, so I'm paraphrasing it from my memory, but next 5 to 10 years, that they are expecting a drastic increase in structure fires, both commercial and residential. And the reason being is because we have become so reliant on all the fire prevention and all the fire detection systems that we have forgotten basic safety and basic mitigation techniques to prevent fires. And you don't have to go through many businesses as a tour or as a fire inspector to know that a lot of their fire prevention systems, protection systems, and detection systems, they're outdated and they're broken. How many nuisance alarms have we gone on here just in our little town?
Yeah, quite a few. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Some of these nursing homes I walk into, like, I would not put my family member.
Yeah,
like seeing sprinkler heads bent. Like,
yeah, and that's what they're citing, is that they're talking like commercials, like schools and churches and stuff, because of these fire protection systems. They're just outsourced. It's like, that's terrifying, because
it is.
I've never been on a true commercial structure fire like that. That's going to be a day right there.
Yeah.
So that's the point of, like, we're almost going to be starting the series here. Like, what do we do? Because something has to change the tide.
It does. And got to start with us.
Yes.
That's the thing. Above us really aren't doing it. They're almost done. They're kind of like being in high school. They have senioritis.
Yes.
Now it's left up to us.
Yes.
Younger generation. Hey, how we're going to do this. It works. It's simple. It's easy. This is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
How they used to do it. We're going to do it both ways. You tell me which way is easier and more efficient.
Yeah. Now the question is going to be what direction we go here, and honestly,
that's a hard one.
Well, we'll talk after this, but I have a few ideas here that I'm floating around my head. But yeah, no, we got to start giving some solutions. As we were talking last night, there's got to be solutions here, because there's plenty of podcasts out there that bitch and moan about all the problems in the world, and that's great, cool. You're identifying.
But let's find a solution to those problems.
Yes.
And I think that's even in my full-time job. Oh yeah, you bitch. Okay. What would you like to see as a solution? How would we fix this? How would you fix this? And let's try it. If it works, it works. We'll see if we can adapt it. If not, okay, let's try something else.
I think one thing that I remember, Drill Sergeant Ryan Porter from Toledo, Ohio, when I was in Fort Jackson, I remember we came to him with an issue. And the very first thing he looked at me and said, "So what do you want done about it?" And it was an issue that's something that at the private level we could have fixed, or we could address. But we were so in our generation, we're just so used to going to mommy and daddy to fix everything. Yeah. He looked straight at us and said, "Don't come to me with another problem. without a solution. You know, if you think you have a solution, I want to hear it, because otherwise, all you're doing is you're just bringing your bitches and gripes to me, and that doesn't help anyone. Because
Yeah, and he's not wrong.
yeah, no. So yeah, and I guess this is now becoming like the first official step to rectifying that. But we have to do more than just talk about the problems. We have to actually give solutions and actually enact solutions.
Exactly.
But that's funny because that's now kind of landing on kind of a no. Is that what's his name? No, it's not. Okay, I thought he was back.
Was he back?
I was gonna say Zach
I
back.
wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be either. So
Might as well fill out that application.
well, so in the great words, we got some other things in the pipeline too. We're talking about videos and whatnot that we're gonna be pointing out. It's all gonna be, honestly, I think it should all be geared that direction, like solutions to things, not any like this is the solution, but just options to things, and just. But I think it's time. We're in our 30s, dude. It's time to stop being children and whining about things, and not be old whiners and actually do something.
Yep.
So, that's kind of a almost downer note, but I mean, hey, at least this time we sound good. At least
and we look good.
I mean, we always look good. So, all right. Well, until next time, I'm not going to give us an episode of what we're going to do next, because I don't know yet. But I've been Tim.
I'm Jeremiah.
And this has been Conflict of Leadership Coffee Table Edition, where we talk about everything in the fire service and everything that affects us. So we'll see you next time. And I think this is also going to mean we're going to be a little bit more consistent too. So, all right.